Well, President Obama says it was an off-script moment. While that meeting yesterday at the White House with the National Economic Recovery Advisory Board was supposed to be about community colleges. But then some members of that advisory council publicly challenged President Obama about why he wants to only extend tax cuts for those in the middle class and not for those making above $250,000 a year. It's a conversation that got a lot of attention, and one of the vocal critics there was Harvard professor Martin Feldstein. I spoke to him earlier.
The President's Economic Recovery Advisory Board is an outside group that's supposed to tell the president what we think. And part of our agenda yesterday was to talk about what could be done to stimulate spending and jobs. And so when the president called on me, I said, well, there were three things that I thought could be done. And one was about the housing market, and one was about small business lending. And the third, and the one that got so much attention, was about the tax cuts. And I said that I thought it would be a mistake to raise any taxes at the current time, that the economy is very weak, that the gap in demand is very large, and that it would be a mistake to not raise taxes, it would be a mistake to raise taxes on anybody for the next 2 years.
But why ask the question when the cameras are rolling? Do you feel that your voice has not been heard behind closed doors?
Well, the Economic Recovery Advisory Board can only meet with the president with the cameras rolling.
Got it.
That is, it's subject to the so-called sunshine rules that says we cannot meet privately with the president and offer advice. So the whole purpose of the Economic Recovery Board is to offer him advice. And when he invited me, a Republican, to join, he said he wanted diverse opinions. And I guess that's what happened yesterday.
That's what he got. Well, I mean, talk to me about your argument is that the tax cuts should be extended at least for 2 years. The president says you do that, they're going to be perpetual cuts. But let's say that this is what happens, that the tax cuts, they're not extended, they are allowed to expire, and then the amount that is currently given to the upper income is recycled by the government into an infrastructure bank or into those payroll taxes as a temporary thing. What happens? I mean, is there not economic benefit in what the president's proposing in those two methods?
Well, I don't think he's really proposing that, and it's not at all clear that Congress would go along with it even if he proposed it. So I think that the issue that's on the table is what do we do about the tax cuts that are going to expire at the end of December. And again, I don't think that any part of that should be permanently extended.
Right.
I think the extension of the middle-class tax cuts beyond 2 years costs $2 trillion by the end of the decade.
Yeah.
So I would stop it at the end of 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years get you right into the election cycle once again, though, right? So that's a point.
Make it 3 years. I think the point is you want to tell markets and the public that the administration is committed to stopping this explosion of the national debt. I think there are real dangers in that. Ben Bernanke spoke to that yesterday. So this fits very much with what Chairman Bernanke talked about. Do something to keep demand up for the next couple of years, but make it clear that beyond that, we're going to start shrinking this fiscal deficit.
Professor Feldstein, very skeptical about what the Federal Reserve can do to juice the economy at this point, saying quantitative easing isn't going to do much except take a few basis points off of the 10-year yields. Listen in to what he suggests that policymakers should be looking at.
Well, I still believe just what you said, that quantitative easing can provide a little bit of help, but it's not going to do a great deal. I think one of the things that needs to be considered is the residential mortgage problem. We have a third of all homeowners with mortgages are facing larger mortgages than their houses are worth. And half of them have loan-to-value ratios of over 130%. The danger is that house prices are going to start falling again because of the end of the first-time homebuyer credit. And that fall in house prices, together with the situation with very high loan-to-value ratios, could lead to a big increase in defaults and foreclosures, putting more homes on the market, driving prices down. So I think the administration should be focusing on this problem of high loan-to-value ratios.
And what, offer like a refinancing incentive there?
Exactly. It would have to work on something that deals with principal, not just changing the monthly payments, but something that reduces the principal that these underwater mortgages owe.
Is there momentum behind that proposal? I know it's been sort of rumored for a while that we might see some sort of revisit of how Fannie and Freddie's mortgages might be restructured, or some incentive to refinance. Is there any momentum building on that front?
I think that's going to happen once house prices start falling again. As long as house prices were relatively stable, as they have been thanks to the homebuyer credit, as long as house prices were relatively stable, there was hope that it wasn't going to be necessary, that we would see the increase in house prices coming along, and that would stabilize the default and foreclosure problem. But I think that's going to go in reverse, and that will bring Congress back to that issue.
Well, let's talk about exports right now. When you look around the world, do you see a currency war underway?
Not exactly. You certainly see it in some of the Asian countries, as the Brazilian finance minister emphasized the other day. The fact that the dollar has weakened relative to the Brazilian real, or to put it the other way around, that the Brazilian real has strengthened relative to the dollar, is not because of any policy that the U.S. is pursuing. And similarly, the European Central Bank isn't depressing the euro, although the euro has fallen because of market pressures. So I think there are some countries that are intervening, and I think that's a serious problem if it becomes more widespread.
It's a serious problem, and you see that problem worsening in the near term?
I hope not. I think that the Chinese are going to let the renminbi appreciate over the coming couple of years.
Yeah.
So I don't really see it as a big problem.
This week, it's all about the jobs number on Friday, and that payrolls report is the last one we'll get before the November congressional elections. A lot of political heat here, a lot of debate about economic policy in this country. Our co-host for the 11 a.m. hour will be David Rosenberg of Bluskin Chef. Be sure to watch.